Hello friends, I thought that today I would show you how I carve stamps, and I'm just having this one here as an example, as kind of an illustrative visual aid for like the sort of thing that we're going to be doing today. I'm not going to be working on this one today. I'm also kind of like at a point where I actually really like the way that this prints as a silhouette. I'll show you, I just tested it out the other day. And I'm not actually sure if I want to carve out all the details I originally envisioned. But anyhow, so I'm going to be carving on this today, and I always use this soft rubber, which does mean that like the longevity of this stamps, like it is soft enough that I may have issues with longevity down the line. However, it's soft enough that it's very easy to carve, which to me is worth the trade-off. I would rather have a stamp be way easier on me to carve than be like absolutely guaranteed to last forever, which even if you use like a harder true linoleum or whatever, it's still not absolutely guaranteed to last forever. So whatever, I use this pink rubber. It actually does come in a number of colors, just usually when I get it, it's pink, and I kind of like the pink. Why not? And this was, I carved this as like the cover of my zine, which I don't have any copies of in here, but I'll insert some footage so you can see what it looks like. This is one of the stamps that I carved like just for my zine. I really did carve this just for the title page. I did not hand print all of my zines. I hand printed the original and then I photocopied. So that's the sort of thing that a lot of people would be like, why would I carve a stamp for that if I'm only going to stamp it a few times? Well, I liked the way that it looks. I like the aesthetic and I like the process of carving stamps, and I can still use the other side. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is using the other side. I do like to carve a lot of double-sided stamps. I was showing in my hand-carved stamp collection the other day. These aren't necessarily like carved double-sided, but I'll like stamp the solid rune shape, like the shape of the rune stone with this side, and then ink this darker and stamp the like rune outline and carving in the darker color or darker level of ink. And so I think that having double-sided stamps can be really cool that way. Or there's some other stuff that I talk about with double-sided stamps in that video. So I will link that video down in the description if you're interested in that. Today, I'm actually going to carve a personal sigil. I've been wanting to create a personal sigil for a very long time, and I just spent kind of like several hours the other night drawing one out, and went through quite a few versions of it and landed on this one. So if I want the finished image to look like this, whatever I carve on the rubber stamp is going to be stamped in reverse. So for example, I'm going to show you one of these, because even if you're not familiar with runes, you're familiar with the letter R. You can see that this is backwards. This is the rune Rido. It looks pretty much like a pointy letter R. When I stamp it like this, and so it stamps a forward R or Rido rune facing the correct way. So if I just carve this into the rubber, I'm going to get a reversed image. And I don't want that. So the way that I transfer my reversed images, sometimes if it's something really simple, or if it like doesn't matter if it's reversed or not, you can just draw it straight on there, and that's fine. Or also, actually, I'll show you another one that I did recently, because I carved some little rosemary sprigs recently, and I wanted them to be like a matching pair. So what I did was I just drew one of them onto the rubber, and then once I had carved the first one, I inked it up and just stamped it onto the other piece of uncarved rubber and used that stamping, because I'm using permanent archival ink, so it won't smudge once you let it dry. It's pretty much there, unless you clean it off with like an alcohol solution, which I don't usually bother. And so I was able to stamp the first stamp onto the other one to get a mirror image and carve this matching set. But I don't want a matching set of mirror image sigils today. I just want the one personal sigil. So I'm going to use tracing paper. And actually, why not? I could freehand this, but I think I'll get a really nice product if I actually trace it. And when you trace it, you want to use pencil, because what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the pencil to the rubber by rubbing it. So I'm going to make, this is like, I'm going to make a couple stylistic corrections here when I do this. So I'm pretty happy with a lot of this. That's good. I'm going to make that a slightly bigger swirl here. This looks good to me, so we're just going to copy that pretty much. That part, I will say, I'm going to look at in a second because I'm a little nervous about carving this bit, but I think I can do it. I think I can do it. And then we want that line, and then we want this swirl. This is going to be pretty complicated to carve. There's a lot of detail in here. There's a lot of opportunities to fuck this up, but that also means that there's a lot of opportunities to show you how I do this and like the sorts of things that I'm going to keep in mind to try not to fuck it up. And you can, like, it doesn't have to be tracing paper, by the way. Tracing paper is cool because it means that you can trace an image and it doesn't even have to be your own drawing. You can find an illustration that you really like and trace it onto tracing paper and use that. But if you want to freehand a design, you can freehand a design onto any kind of paper and still use this method to transfer it. It doesn't have to be tracing paper. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over so the pencil is down, so you can still see it because it's tracing paper. And I'm going to position it on my rubber. Let's go. I want to go a little closer to the edge than that. Well, that lives there now. Okay, let's pick a different spot and then I'll use that for like a simpler thing. I want to go a little closer to the edge just so I'm wasting less of the rubber. That looks good to me. So once you pick your spot, you want to make sure it does not move and just give it a real good rubbing. And you can just use your fingers for this. You can use a bone folder. You can use the back side of your nail. And if you don't get every detail, it's okay. As long as you like notice. So there we go. That is our reversed image. You can see there, they are pretty good, perfect mirror images of each other. And what I want to do on this one, sometimes I carve out the line and then I get a negative space stamp. This one, that would be really easy if I did that, but I want to make life hard for myself. So instead, I'm going to carve it so that the pencil markings are what remains. So I might end up with slightly bolder lines than what I have here, and I'm okay with that. And then the other thing that we can do is we can test what the stamp looks like throughout the process. So I'm going to walk you through the tools that I'm going to use here. So I have like a whole set of carving tools. It came with a lot more than this, but these are the 4 that I use the most. So this one I will use for like, I'll definitely use it at the end when I go to cut out my final shape. This is just like a flat angled blade. So when I go to cut out the stamp from the big lump of rubber, I'll definitely use this then. But also sometimes if I need to like really get in and get something very specific, I'll use this to chisel it out. So I'll show you when we get to that. The one that I use most often is this V wedge. If you can tell, it comes to a very sharp point right at the tip, and that allows me to carve out my sharp corners. And that is the one that I use the most often while I'm carving. And then I have these 2 kind of rounded, scoopy looking ones. These are both kind of just like curved, scoopy, spoony like ones. And one of them is smaller and one of them is larger and wider. And these are nice for when you're trying to carve out. This one's really nice for when you're trying to carve out a large area, like you have a lot of extra rubber and you're trying to get rid of it. And then this one, both of them can be nice, but the little one especially for if you're trying to carve out a really tight curve. So like here, for example, I'll use the pointy chisel to get this point here at the bottom, and then I'll use this small round chisel to carve out that round bit at the top. And actually, that's a great place for us to start. So let's move this in a little so you can see. I'm hoping you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to start with this this pointy V chisel, and I'm going to put that point right at that innermost, right at the pointiest tip of that. And I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to stop. And instead of going like all the way across, I'm going to kind of come sharply up and try and slice that off pretty much where it is. If it doesn't quite come off, I can pick it. So this is what we've got now. We've got a little point carved out that doesn't go all the way to the thing. And then I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to take my because I always like to be scooping or carving away from me if possible. And I'm going to take this, and it looks like actually, if I go here, it's a little wider than this scoop is a little wider than the curve I actually want. So I'm going to start over here where it actually matches up. And then come over here. So I'm just like, I'm digging that little trench, but I'm not actually pulling it out yet. And then it should all meet in the middle there. Yep. Okay. So now we've got that little bit dug out, and it looks like there's a tiny bit of like a little chunk like right here that might bother me when it goes to print. But instead of worrying about that right now, I'm going to try and get all my major carving, like what I just did, done. And then I'll do a test stamp, and then I'll notice what really bothers me and what I really need to fix. Because there's always also the risk of fucking it up worse than you thought you could. So I'm going to take my pointy one here again, and I'm now going to carve this section here. And so I want to start at that point and then go to that point, and then I really want just the narrowest channel dug up here, and I want to go pretty round. Instead of moving my chisel around in a circle, I'm moving the rubber around in a circle, and it does help to have it on this notebook because the notebook swivels on my desk surface much more easily. Once again here, I am not going to go all the way into that corner. I'm going to stop right about here, because if I want to get that corner nice and sharp, I want to start in that corner with this tool. So let's pull this up just like that. And that's also like, if you want a nice flat stop, that is a pretty good way to get it. And then because this really V's out, we're just going to go real deep and wide so we can get that nice bit out. There we go. I like the look of that. Okay, so that's something that I'll show you actually. If I want to get the tight inside, so the tight inside of a spiral like I just did here, what I will do is I will work into it, and then so here we'll do it on this one here. So I'll start in this. I'll start by carving out this corner here just so we can have that out of the way. And then we'll go here. I'm gonna make sure we've got a nice narrow channel, so we're saving that whole line. And then we just start turning the rubber in a circle. And now I'm not moving the chisel at all right now. I am just moving the rubber in a circle until the very end. And there we go. So now I will just go around the other edge of that, and we'll have that pretty well preserved. It does look like I got a little close to that corner. I cut off some of my pencil. So I'm just going to correct for that by, here, we'll mark it out. Just going to move that line just the tiniest bit that way. And it probably wouldn't have hurt to have used bolder lines in my original sketch, but I didn't. So here we are. I am going very slowly and calmly because I'm also like aware that like my hand is over here holding this in place. So if I try to go too fast and I slip, this blade is going to come right at my hand. But if I'm going very slowly and easily, and I'm not, I know that I'm not like forcing anything, it moves just like butter and we're good. Into that corner. And so here, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this side of the blade to line up with this line that I'm trying to create. And then I'm going to get the point in the corner, and then I'm going to kind of direct the blade across the other line. And I've now gotten my chisel under the surface of the rubber, so we want to pull that back up. And I'm gonna now tighten that up just a hair. Okay, there we go. And so this is a place where I'll grab my little wide scoop here, because I don't need to do any details here. I just want to get rid of this rubber. So we're just gonna scoop. And then actually I like coming up against the edge. And we scoop. And we scoop. And we scoop. And that I probably didn't even need to scoop out quite that much, but I did. And then I'm going to scoop out this. And I scoop. And I'd always rather like pull up rubber than risk running into a line that I'm really trying to preserve. So you'll notice that was what I was doing there. Let's grab the little one. There we go. And so then like I'm looking at this point here, and it looks like there's like a little tiny bit hanging off after the tip of what I want. And so I'm just gonna take this and go like that, and go like that, and now it's gone. But again, we'll touch that up when we get to the test print. And like this looks like kind of a rough line. We'll touch that up when we get to the test print. So that one, I don't know if you saw, I was able to get that really fine point just by very delicately like tapering off the end of this, the end of that stroke, and bringing it back up to the surface nice and slow. There we go. Let's dig out some of that middle there. Okay. Let's grab that. Again, keeping that left side right up against that straight line, and then we're gonna go in and taper as we come up here and see if I can get that in one stroke. And that looks like it's leaving me with a little bit of a bold line, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. We'll worry about that when we get to the test print, see how we feel about it then. Okay, do a sharp turn there. And then instead of trying to turn on that angle, I'm just gonna pull this right up, tear that rubber out, and then come out this from the other side, from down here, come right up here. And as soon as we get to that corner, it comes right up. And that looks like another thing that I might want to, I'll clean it up just a little bit right now. There we go. All right, this little thorn, I want to pull out just the tiniest bit of a point here with the little thorn. So I'm just gonna go in at the sharpest point and then almost immediately come right up and just lift. And you can see how that pulled that out, and it's a nice flat line there. Okay. Okay, so something I'm gonna do here, because I'm trying to get the outside of these little spirals, I'm gonna use this little curved tool to slice straight down around where I want my cuts to land. And then I'm gonna come at them, and it should pull right up as soon as I get to that point. Maybe even a little early. Like I might wanna pull up on purpose a little bit early, so that when I'm ripping the rubber, I'm ripping below the surface, and it at the surface, it's gonna meet that really neat cut that I pre-cut there. There we go. If you don't have nails, I don't have very much in the way of nails, but I have a little bit here. You might also find it helpful to have some really fine pointed tweezers, so that you could like go in, and if you had like a little dangly piece, you could go in and pick it up with the tweezers. I don't, that was just an illustration. I just pulled one up with my fingers, which is why I was mentioning it. Okay, I'm using the little scoopy tool to come up at this curve, or the big scoopy tool, I guess. And let's slice in there. So that was the same technique there. We take the big scoopy and we just pre-slice right around that curve where I want it to pull up, and then come at it sideways, and it should come right up. And that's an opportunity where it hasn't cut all the way through, so I could use my fingers or I'll just use my tweezers there. Let's do another one of those. Oh no, wrong tool. Let's get the big scoopy and go around. I'm going around this curve here with the big scoopy, just straight down. And then I'll come at it from over here. And before I come up against that, here we'll go in with the tweezers so you can see a little better without my hand in the way. And see how it's pulling away where I already pre-sliced? That's what we want. So it's definitely still attached like underneath, but rather than going and digging in there and risking messing up my other ones, I'm actually better at this with my hands. So there you go. So here I'm really being very careful to watch because I've now got lines on either side of my carving tool and I'm trying not to run into either one of them. And so I'm kind of slowly I'm just applying less pressure downward. And so as I go forward, the chisel is coming up a little bit, which is making the channel that I'm carving narrower. And now I'm just pivoting the rubber around it. And let's pull that up. And we've got a nice, neat little spiral there. And we've got a nice, neat little spiral there. And again, that might be a little thicker than I want, but I would rather get all my shapes here and get my test print and then see what line weights are bothering me so that I can fix it. She says, and then immediately carves a little more out, but just a little more. This is bothering me. I don't know if you can see this. There's just a little piece attached here. So I'm just gonna use my flat knife, go straight down there, and then go straight across. That's my bread timer going off. I'll be right back. I love this. So I just got a new thermometer not that long ago for cooking and stuff. And I mostly use it for my bread, and you can set it to a temperature and put the probe in the oven and have the reader part outside. It's on like a long cable. And then when the thing that you're temping actually hits the temperature that you've set it to, it'll beep so that you know that it's done. And it's like, I don't have to check it every 5 minutes and go temp it. It just tells me when my bread hits 190. So that's really great. The downside is that my thermometer has been temping a little low, which I found out when I tried to make jam the other day. I did make jam, but it ended up being a very thick jam because I thought it's never going to reach 221. I give up. And on the thermometer, it didn't ever reach 221. It chilled out at 214 for like an hour. And then I gave up and jarred it. And then when I tasted some the next day, it was like delicious, but like really thick. And I was like, what went wrong here? And then I guess, well, actually I figured out what went wrong the same day that I made the jam because I was temping my water bath and it was at a very rolling boil for quite a while and it was reading 208. And I was like, you, sir, are lying to me. Okay. Uh-oh. I might have fucked that up. Like I said, this is I've really made a very intricate design for myself here. I was going to say I didn't need to do that, but I did need to do that. It had to be right. Well, fuck. I have fucked it up just a wee bit. You can see, I think if I don't touch it, it'll be okay. But it looks like I might not get the full imprint of that bottom part of that inner part of that spiral there. It looks like there's a tiny little line break that I just put there because of how I did that. So, you know, we can't all do everything perfect all the time. It's funny too, because that is one of the elements that I was trying like really hard. Like the element that I might have just lost in my design is the element that I tried like 20 different designs to be able to fit it in somewhere in a way that I liked. So maybe I'm just not supposed to have that element in there, or maybe I need to recarve. We'll come to that decision later, or maybe it's good enough as it is. Also, if you feel like I'm carving quickly, a lot of my real-time videos, I speed up to 110%. And just try and keep the pitch the same so it doesn't sound super weird, just so that I waste a little less of your time. Okay, let's go back to an easy part, carving around the leaves. I like carving leaves. They're hard to fuck up. That's a lovely leaf. And I like to get the inside of the spiral first, because the inside is always harder. And so if you fuck up on the inside of the spiral, then even if you lose, like actually like I did there, I went over a lot of the pencil, I can just make it a slightly bigger spiral and just make sure that I'm leaving it. I'm leaving the design there when I go around the outside like this. It's just slightly different size and location, and that's fine. We are definitely getting close to test print time, but we're not there yet. Let's get my V chisel back out here. Just the tiniest inner spiral there. Same thing there. And then we'll be very careful going around the edge of that one. I'll stop right there and finish that from the inner corner. All right, we really just need to get this area here. So let me finish that up and then we'll do a test print. Okay, so what I'm actually gonna do here, I'm coming up against this edge, but I'm afraid that if I just pull straight up, because I've already carved out the inside of the thorn there, that it'll pull up the whole side. So I'm gonna leave this chisel in here, this valley chisel in here, and I'm gonna use my straight knife here to slice right down right where I want it to hit, which I could have pre-cut that, but I didn't. So we did it that way. And actually you can see, if you just pull a little, you can see we haven't quite hit it yet. So I'm gonna keep it this way where it's bent like this and just go in like that, just to pull that up. There we go. And now this time I am gonna pre-cut, so I'm gonna cut right here. And then why not, I'll cut a little here, just a little. And then we'll come at that, like that. So once I do the test print, if there's finicky stuff that I want to fix, which there quite possibly will be, it's going to be a lot easier to fix it if I have this whole bit of rubber to navigate by instead of having to hold it like this. So I'm not going to detach it from the big piece of rubber just yet. Instead, let's do green. Why not? I'm going to grab my ink. I'm going to ink that up. I'm just going to pop that right down here. Try and get a nice even print. Okay. Well, I am actually pretty dang pleased with that. And I don't know if you can tell, but we did keep that bottom bit of that spiral there. Ooh, that is my thermometer telling me my bread's ready. I'll be right back. Dude, those bread boys, beautiful, gorgeous. Okay, so honestly, the only things that are bothering me even a little bit, and I think we're pretty good here, but if I wanted to clean some stuff up, and I'll clean a little bit of stuff up, I want to clean up this line here just a little bit, which is this line here. And I want to clean up this just a little bit. It's real hard to tell actually if this is from something in the carving or something in the imprint. Because you see that little hook there? Like I don't see that here. But we'll clean it up just a little bit. It's not gonna hurt anyone. I'm gonna get my little scoopy here. And we're gonna go like that. And then just to tighten it up a little bit on the inside of the coil as well. And then I'm now seeing that I've created kind of a flat end there. So I'm gonna grab my flat blade and just taper that. There it is. So I'm gonna leave that blade in there and go in against it with the scoopy. There we go. And then I said I wanted to clean this line up just a little bit. And this line is this line, and it's not, do I even? Just a little, just the tiniest bit. In fact, let's just do it with the straight knife. So we're just gonna go like that. And then we're gonna go like that. I'm just looking at the places where it's got like slight corners instead of curves, and I'm trying to chop off the corners, which of course will just make smaller corners, but if you get small enough corners, they look like curves. That's what pixels do. Again, let's go in there with the tweezers instead of trying to cut that. So what I'm really trying to avoid with a lot of this is I don't want to risk cutting into underneath the bits that I want to keep, because then I could accidentally like really weaken this and have bits that I want to keep detached, especially when you're working with like thin lines like this. Let's see, I'm looking at this here and it's bothering me a little bit. Does it bother? Yeah, just a little. So once again, let's go in with the flat knife, and then let's go in with the scoopy up against the flat knife just to get that off. Okay, I guess this is a little thick and messy too. Okay, we'll take the corner, the pointy chisel, just that actually probably cleans that up quite a bit. And then let's see if we can get that a little sharper. And then let's see if we can get this one just a little finer. Lovely. Okay, and let's do another test print. Why not? Oh, that is lovely. And so this line, you can see actually came out both times. I didn't even notice it the first time. And that's from that little raised bit there. So we'll go in with a big chisel here, or the big scoopy, and just get that. And then I think I'm ready to slice through. So what I like to do for slicing it out is grab my tracing paper pad, but from the other side. So it's like a cutting mat. And then I grab my flat blade and I just go for it. And I do like to leave a little bit of a border. But I also like to be close enough to the shape of the design. Okay, so like here, I want to leave more space than I've carved out. So I'm just gonna carve through the part that's not carved out yet, and that's fine. Okay, and then we will just, so it's not carved all the way down, which is fine, but I can just pull off the rest of it. And then we'll take my scoopy guy and we'll just get rid of that. So that doesn't bother us anymore. It looks like there's a little bit there that was picking up some ink. I'll get that. And then I'm actually I'm gonna get that off. And then I'm gonna come carve out a little more of this. And this is just like, I like to be close enough to the shape of the design that I can kind of see how I'm placing my stamp when I go to make an impression. And sometimes I just like to make it, I just like to smooth things to make it look pretty. How was this point? Oh, that point is not actually looking very good. Now that I look at it again, I'm seeing this line. I hope you can't see that. This line is a little bit rough, and this point is just not very pointy. So I'm going to just clean up that line just the tiniest bit, like that. And then I'm going to use my flat blade here to go down and against that, and to go down and against that. Again, being very careful not really to go like under the point of the V, because I don't want to compromise the structural integrity. So I'm really only going just as far as I need to. And I mean, like, you know, this is my stamp, so if anything about it ever bothers me later, I can always fix it then. Something that bothers me just a little bit, but that I don't have the power to fix, you can see the loop where, like here, the top of this R loop, like I've cut out just the tiniest bit too much right here. But you can never go uncut stuff out. You can just cut more stuff out. So it doesn't bother me that much. It's fine. I'm gonna leave it. And then what was the other thing that was bothering me? Just the tiniest bit. Oh, right here, where this loop comes off of this line, it's a little thin right here at this very spot. But again, that's a thing where like I carved off a little too much. Can't go back and undo that. We're stuck with it. So that's what we got. Having cleaned that up pretty nicely, let's go ahead and ink our finished stamp. Great. Oh, let's get it on a flat surface here. And throw it. That is lovely, and I'm quite pleased. I'm feeling pretty good about this. So anyhow, that is how I carve stamps. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope this was inspiring for you. And I hope that, yeah, you feel a little more empowered to carve your own stamps if that's something that you're interested in, or that if you're already carving your own stamps, I hope that you learned something useful that can help your technique. And if there's anything that you know that I don't know that you think I could benefit from knowing, please drop in the comments. Or if you have any questions, please drop those in the comments. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.